All right, testing 1 2, testing 1 2. Alright, testing. Alright, everyone, welcome to another stream. It is Thursday, and today we're going to be playing some more Sega CD. This system's been hooked up for the last week since we did the Sonic the Hedgehog stream, and Sonic 2 and Sonic CD, which actually got some great views, so thanks to everyone that tuned into that, and thanks for everyone that checked out the archive of that. We had some pretty fun runs on those games, with some minor frustrations, but it was really good to go back to them, and you know, over the last week or so, Dark Souls 2 aside, which I've been clocking a lot of time into, I have been practicing for some Sega Genesis Let's Plays, and between those sessions I've also been messing around with some Sega CD games. Not really for Let's Plays, I mean everything is, you know, potential Let's Play fodder, but it's certain games, you know, sort of click and cooperate with me. None of those were Sega CD games. But I did dabble with some stuff. One of them was Eternal Champions, Challenge from the Dark Side, which is kind of a sequel, kind of not, to Eternal Champions on the Sega Genesis, which was a one-on-one fighting game from 1993. Challenge from the Dark Side came out in either 94 or 95. I don't know what the exact release date was. Online sources say 94 was the release date, but the title screen says 95, so I'm inclined to think 1995, unless it was a typo. But yeah, it's heavily enhanced over the Sega Genesis fighting game, with better frame rate. It doesn't get choppy like the Genesis 1 can sometimes. It's got more detailed visuals. It's got a CD soundtrack. It's got a new combo system. So in the Sega Genesis game, you'll punch enemies and they'll get pushed back, and there's not really linking hits together. And in Eternal Champions CD, there are good combo strings you can do, which makes the game a whole lot more fun to play. And it's got a bunch of extra features too, more blood and stuff like that for those of you guys that like Mortal Kombat gore and whatnot. This game is actually quite gory, so I did want to make a quick warning to those of you guys that are a little bit squeamish. This is pixel art. It is old. You know, some of this stuff is really goofy, but some of the stuff you're going to see actually still looks kind of messed up, to be honest with you. And that was one of actually the selling points of the game back in the day for 13, 14-year-old me whenever I got a Sega CD. As a big fan of Mortal Kombat and Killer Instinct and Primal Rage, this game was just awesome to me as a kid, and it's still a ton of fun to play. I did a Let's Play of it a few years ago, and after playing this on Twitch last weekend, I had thought about actually trying to do another Let's Play, because the old one was before I got my upscaler that we're using right now. But you know what? I thought about it. I was like, you know, if we do a live stream, we can just experiment with like fatalities and stuff like that, so I can actually show you guys some of the stuff in the game, some of the funny stuff in particular as well. And also, just for comparison's sake, what I might do at the end of the stream is bust out the original Eternal Champions for the Sega Genesis, so you guys can actually do direct comparisons. You can just check out the first part of the stream, then skip to the end, and then you can see how they differ and see how, you know, the CD version really is improved. But yeah, it's got a lot of extra characters as well, so it's kind of like a sequel in that it's got extra characters, it's got a second final boss, but it's also kind of like how Capcom treated their Street Fighter 2 iterations. So you had Champion Edition, which included the boss characters as playable characters. Then you had Super Street Fighter 2, which had another 4 characters. And if you look at the jump from Street Fighter 2 to Super Street Fighter 2, that's kind of like what the jump from Eternal Champions to Eternal Champions CD is like. So there's a big difference, you know, between the two. And this is definitely a recommended fighting game. If you're into fighting games from the time, I'd say this is one of the best that is console exclusive. This did not originate in the arcade. This was built from the ground up for the consoles, the Sega CD in particular. So as a console exclusive fighting game, this is probably easily the best from that era. It's very well made. It plays very well. It holds up very well. Does it really match the stuff like Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter and whatnot? I think it depends on your taste. Really depends on your taste. The game's definitely deeper than Mortal Kombat as far as like combo strings go and stuff like that. There's a lot more flexibility to link special moves out of combos and into combos and things like that. And there's a whole lot of other fun stuff as well that you didn't get from fighting games of the era, like you know, quite a hefty full motion video story actually. Actually the reason that I'm sitting here at the Sega CD BIOS is once I close the drive door, it's going to go straight into the introduction for the game, and I want the introduction to roll out for those of you guys that are interested in, you know, the story and whatnot. So, but yeah, this should be a fun stream. It might not be the longest stream, might be a couple hours and that's it. The main game itself will probably take about an hour to get through, if we get through it. The final boss is one of those final bosses where you only get like 1 or 2 tries on him, and then that's it. And the final bosses in this game are very endurance heavy. Like the first final boss, I think both final bosses have 9 forms total. It's crazy. Yeah. So we'll see what we can do. Last time I got to the final boss, I actually ended up dying and I had to forfeit the whole game. So, but hey Larry G, how's it going, man? But yeah, let's go ahead and go through the you know, the chat. And not that there has been a ton of chat. I don't predict this stream to be that popular compared to like Sonic the Hedgehog or something like that. But I did put a lot of time into this on Twitch last weekend, and so I definitely, you know, wanted to show it off on YouTube again. So, hey, Anson Hughes, what's going on, man? Eternal Champions is a really cool fighting game. Office says, friendship again? Carlos says, sadly, no babalities. Well, you can play as a puppy in this, and an owl, and a chicken, I believe. So, close to babies, but not quite. And Isaiah, how's it going? Brandon, welcome back. And Carlos, and we had Kitsu in there, and Ridley X, and Mike and Raymond, and it looks like that's about it. Yeah, slow chat tonight to start off. So, yeah, so Raymond, you have to, the final boss has 9 forms, and then you have to go to a second final boss, which also has 9 forms. I think in the Genesis version of Eternal Champions, you get to this guy in the end of the game called the Eternal Champion. He's basically the final boss. I want to say in the Genesis version, he only has 5 forms. But in the Sega CD one, they doubled it, or almost doubled it. Because I think he has 1 form to start, and then he basically has his base form to start. Then he switches over to 4 other forms as you kill each form. So it should be 5. Unless I'm miscalculating something there. Yeah, I don't think the Genesis version had you doing all 9. I think in that one it was just the 5 to start, and then there was no second final boss. So yeah, they really beef things up for better or for worse in certain ways in the Sega CD one, but I think it's for the better. It's a lot of content, and yeah, the challenge kind of gives the single player replay value a little more of an edge, I guess. So. But yeah, so let's go ahead and do the old Patreon shoutouts and whatnot. So as usual, guys, thanks for continuing to support my channel via things like Patreon. And sorry, there goes the music. I didn't set up my stream properly, so let's actually switch over to the super chat slide as well. I want to make sure that the audio, yeah. Man, Austin, you are not prepped again. But yeah, thanks everyone that's supporting the channel via places like Patreon. And I also actually need to update the slides because as usual I did this at the very last minute and therefore the slides weren't updated. But yeah, I actually wanted to give a big shout out to Brian Trong. I probably mispronounced that, but Brian, thank you very much for supporting the channel. He actually was a new pledge earlier this week, so thank you, sir, for that. DarkMew64, also thanks for coming back. He left 2 weeks ago, then came back, so thanks, DarkMew. Hope you're doing well, man. Haven't seen you in a while. So yeah, thanks everyone else. Thanks to everyone else that's supporting the channel through Patreon. I wanted to give you a big heads up for those of you guys on Patreon. My Let's Play uploads might be a day or two late. Well, I don't want to say late because since there's a 2-week gap between video uploads now, I'm not going to be as stressed to have the video up like that specific Sunday, you know, 2 weeks in advance. So just a heads up, this Let's Play might not post this upcoming Sunday for patrons. I might post Monday or Tuesday or something like that. It depends on how busy I am this weekend. I'm trying to pull things back a little bit and not be as stressed out with all this video creation and whatnot. So for everyone else on YouTube, it'll still be 2 weeks apart. Patreon backers, they'll get the videos anywhere from a week to 2 weeks early. It just depends on how much time I have. So, but yeah, also thanks to the live stream super chatters and direct donors. So thank you guys. And actually this list needs to be updated. Big shout out to Red Dwarf 74, who actually rejoined as a channel member as well. So channel membership is another way of supporting the channel. And you get some cool emotes in the chat and whatnot. But thank you, Red Dwarf, for coming back. And with that said, let's go ahead and jump into the game. Let's go ahead and close this drive door. What I'm going to do is I'm going to shut the door, and then what I'm going to do is shut the door, and then I'm going to basically turn the game volume all the way up, and then you guys can just watch the intro, and then I'll come back in with the voice. So here we go.
From the first seconds of time I've come. Born of human spirit, I travel throughout space and time to ensure the protection of all mankind. In this continuum, mankind shall fade from existence unless a great change takes place. I am the instrument of this change, for I am the eternal champion. The downfall of man is traceable to the sudden deaths of key individuals that were meant for greatness, but were struck down before their time. I have used much of my power, traveling through time, gathering up these doomed souls moments before their untimely destruction. I will hold a great contest, and I will return the victor to fulfill their rightful destiny and to save mankind from the forces of chaos and ruin. Flash, 50,000 BC. A caveman of superior intelligence, cornered by resentful tribesmen. Ramses III, 151 BC, last of the great pharaohs, lost in the river of time. Trident, 110 BC, hero of Atlantis, sealing that island's fate when defeated by Roman treachery. Riptide, 1566 AD. A freebooter that lived for adventure and justice on the high seas and died for pieces of 8. Xavier Pendragon, 1692, an alchemist burned as a warlock. Raven Gindar, 1802, a mystic healer with control over time itself, but blind to her own dark fate. Dawson McShane, 1849, a lone wolf with a taste for gold and an eye for justice. Cheta Max, 1899, a circus acrobat skilled in savate, this royal Russian fell victim to sabotage. Lawson Tyler, 1920. An ex-cat burglar and kung fu expert. He realized the mob's treachery much too late. Saro Yamoto, 1993, a corporate assassin whose change of heart ended her career. Mitchell Middleton Knight, aka Midnight, 2100 AD, a scientist turned cursed vampire by a virus of his own creation. Jonathan Blake, 2030. A bounty hunter sent to track down a deranged scientist and his poisonous vial of chemicals. He is set up by his own government and eliminated. Rax Coswell, 2345, a destructive combination of man and machine killed to ensure a winning wager. These are my champions. Let the contest begin.
Not so fast, my friend. You didn't notice our 4 new contestants. I withheld them, hoping to hasten your destruction. But I'm weary of all this scribble and scrawl, so I too shall join your contest. Be warned, my power will destroy everything you hold dear.
Alright, so that's the introduction. Pretty cool. For those of you guys that played the Genesis version only, it's pretty cool to see that, actually. I did actually play the first Eternal Champions back in the day. A couple of my friends owned the game, and it was a lot of fun. And, yeah, so seeing the Sega CD version music for the first time was really cool, so... it's always neat to go back to. I enjoy that intro quite a bit. The story is a little, I don't know, unbelievable. Naturally, it's a video game, it's fiction, but still, I enjoy it. It's cool. The developers went through all the trouble to try to craft, you know, a pretty comprehensive story. So let's see. What do I want to do here? Let me mess around with the audio. Just wanted to balance the audio a little bit. I've got my Genesis Model 1 hooked up to this, so I can actually use the mixing control to balance the audio a little bit. So yeah, this actually is a game that does support the 6-button controller. You absolutely want to have a 6-button controller when you play this game. Otherwise, it's just a little, well, it's not as good as it could be. So you have Inner Contest, which is your main single-player mode, Inner Duel, which is versus mode, Inner Tournament, which I guess you just go through a bunch of different characters. It's kind of generic tournament mode. And you have other stuff here like Access Info. So you can actually watch the endings, openings. There's a credits line. You can watch the storyline again. Here's the biography. Let's see what that does. Yeah, so this is actually a lot like the Genesis one right here, where you can basically read the characters' bios and whatnot. And there's actually a lot of information per character, so if you're that kind of person that's into this stuff, there's a whole lot of information here, which is really cool. So again, Eternal Champion CD does have extra characters. And look, some of these hidden characters, like the snake, which is a hidden character, the chicken, which is a hidden character, they even have bios for them. So they really went out of their way to pack this game rich with content. Riptide is a new character. Ramses is a new character. Thanatos, this is an unlockable character. So he's new. Hooter is new. Zuni is new. Chinwo is new. This is also an unlockable character. Happy, or Yappy, that's an unlockable character. Raven is a new character. Senator is another hidden character. He's got a funny stage with a really over-the-top fatality that I'll definitely show off later today. Blast is another hidden character, and he's also new. Dawson is one of the new main characters. And then we got Shadow, and back to the beginning. So let's go ahead. What we're going to do is just run through the main single-player game. I'm going to be playing as Larson, which is my favorite character to play as. And I'll just sort of explain how the gameplay system works and whatnot. Think of it as like, it plays a lot like Street Fighter. It's got charge moves. It's got, you know, command moves like quarter circle forwards and things like that. It's got throws very much like Street Fighter has throws, and so on and so forth. So the game is definitely most like Street Fighter in terms of its gameplay, Street Fighter 2. So if you're comfortable with Street Fighter 2, then you'll probably feel right at home with this game. For the most part. So right here you've got about you've got 14, no, not quite 14. So it looks like you've actually got 13 characters out of the gate, and then you unlock these guys right here. So Chinwo here, all the way down across the bottom, those are all unlockable characters. Same with Blast here on the side, he's an unlockable character. You can also unlock the Eternal Champion and the Dark Eternal Champion, which are the bosses of the game, and you can use them in versus mode. So we'll probably go into the versus mode later today, so I can show you, you know, some different fatalities and stuff like that. Down here, if you press down, you can choose your difficulty mode. We're gonna stick to Warrior. Warrior, I believe what happens is you go through the game, and if you get a game over, you can continue. Up to like 2 or 3 times. I think that's how it works. If you pick champion, you have to go through the whole game, and if you get a game over, it kicks you back 2 opponents, 2 or 3 opponents, I can't remember. So you actually lose progress, but you get infinite continues up until the final boss in the game, or the Eternal Champions. So that's actually really tough. The original Genesis game, I believe, was set on this difficulty setting. So again, we'll try to play the Genesis version at the end of the stream, so you can see comparisons. But alright, so we're gonna go ahead and pick Larson up here. So like the animals down here, these are actually kind of like throwaway hidden characters. They're not really that much fun to play as. They're just kind of joke characters. So as far as actual characters are concerned, you know, it's got your base 13 and then 4 more. And Thanatos here is really, I think he's more or less just a palette swap of Xavier up here. Maybe with some alterations. So, you know, you're probably looking at about 17 characters, not counting the Eternal Champions in versus mode. But it is still funny being able to play as a dog, owl, chicken, snake, and rabid monkey. So, alright, so let's go ahead and pick Larson, jump right into it. Best music has to be Xavier and Midnight Stages. Hey, the soundtrack is all over the place in this game. There's you know, electronic music, techno, there's, you know, hard rock, heavy metal, and then there's more atmospheric stuff. So, So this is a 6-button game, like I said. The top row of buttons is punches, going from weak to fierce. And the bottom row is kicks. And with Larson, a lot of times what I do is I like to do his ducking medium kick, because that can combo immediately into his ducking fierce kick. And so, again, one of the great things about this game is that it does have a combo system. And there we go. And you can always, if enemies end up getting knocked into the air, you can always do at least one hit on them in the air. So you don't really have air juggles per se, but you can get an extra hit on them in the air. You can't do that in the Genesis version of the game. And again, you've got charge moves and whatnot. So with Larson here, you can hold back for a second and a half or so, and then press medium punch, and he'll throw this sigh across the screen like so. How do you unlock the hidden characters? I don't know the exact stipulations for that, as far as unlocking them the normal way. So you can just play the game a bunch of times and you'll start unlocking stuff, and there are various things you can do in the game to get them unlocked. Or you can just enter cheat codes at the end stat screen after you end a round. And you could do this in versus mode as well. So what I ended up doing last week on Twitch, because I had to start brand new data for this game. I didn't have my old data. And I was able to basically go into versus mode, finish a match, and on the stat screen, I was able to enter codes for every hidden character in the game. And then when you reset the console and you go back into the game, all the characters will be there in the versus mode. Actually, I had to exit versus mode and then go back into it, and then all the characters were there. So all that stuff is on GameFAQs. So, you know, if you want to unlock all the characters in this game, if you own this game, then yeah, just go to GameFAQs. And all those codes work. I've used them all. So I've got all the hidden characters and whatnot. Office says Larson makes you think of Dick Tracy. So another one of Larson's moves is holding back for 2 seconds and pressing forward with his fierce punch. Now, I actually really enjoy playing this game in single player. There's some fighting games where I really only like playing them, with people. But there are other fighting games where I actually enjoy playing them in single player, because you've got different things you have to worry about when you play against the AI. Like when you play against Blade here, it's harder to do jump kicks against him, because he always does his anti-air attack, where he sort of just flies up into the air and will knock you out of whatever you're trying to do. Now you do have taunts in this game, and so one of the main gameplay mechanics in this is you've basically got a power meter, denoted by the yin-yangs in the top left and right portion of the screen. When that is a blinking circle, that means you've run out of energy and you can't do certain special moves, which keeps you and your opponents from cheesing the same projectiles over and over, which is kind of I don't want to say a problem with games like Street Fighter, but it is an issue to an extent. And that kind of keeps you from being able to do that. So I can throw up to about 4 or 5 projectiles here, which will do chip damage if the AI blocks it, and then I can't do it for a second or two. So it sort of forces me to mix up my moves. By taunting, you'll actually deplete your opponent's energy. So that's actually a strategy. Some enemies have stronger attacks that are really difficult to avoid, and if you deplete their energy, it'll keep them from being able to do those moves. So taunting in this actually has quite a bit of a purpose. Now, the thing about playing against the AI, though, is they do have a tendency of blocking a lot. A lot. Let's see if we can get Blade over here. See if we can do his stage fatality. So you've got two different types of stage fatalities. They're called sudden deaths and then overkills. And we're going to go ahead and try to get... I don't know whether this is an overkill or a sudden death, but this is the same one that was in the Genesis one. Let's see if we can get it. Come on. Alright, we're not going to be able to get it. Yeah, we ran out of time. But we still won, so what I was trying to do is, if he's kind of like right in front of that fan and you finish him off there, he'll basically get knocked into the fan. And if you've seen the Genesis version of the game, it's the same fatality basically, except they basically made this one really gory. Blood goes everywhere and it splatters the whole screen, and it just comes out of left field. So for those of you guys that have never seen this version of Eternal Champions before, there are going to be some fatalities that you'll just be like, okay, I didn't see that coming. There were fatalities in the original Eternal Champions. Stage fatalities were a big selling point of the game, but they weren't gory or anything. There wasn't really any blood in that version of the game. Yeah, so for stages that were in the Genesis version of the game, you know, a lot of those fatalities, if not all of them, have returned. But now there's an extra one per stage as well. So if you're a fan of the Sega Genesis version of the game, you know, I'd really appreciate if you stopped blocking. How about giving me some hits, please? There we go. So a lot of characters in this game also have reflect moves, and Riptide has a tendency of doing that, just like that. Some characters are a lot more susceptible to things like jump kicks than others. So there's also sort of a cheap character with a cheap strategy with Larson here. Pressing down and A, or weak kick, will do this attack that the AI has a tendency of just blocking when they're in corners, or not blocking in certain cases. It's not a special, it's just a regular move. And it does a little bit of chip damage every time they block it. So one strategy you're going to see me doing to cut through the AI, the block happy AI, is... There we go, that's a nice combo right there. So, but very situational. You really have to be able to jump kick. There we go. Oh, we got it! Alright, so here's our first stage fatality. Nom 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 nom. Yeah, so that's a sudden death, apparently. And then I guess overkills are ones that are, well, I don't know. It's hard to explain. They're both stage fatalities. So. Yeah, every time I hear the, every time I see the shark on screen, I think the same thing. Like, dun it, dun it. Like the Jaws theme. Dun it, dun it, dun it. So Slash's, the fatality on Slash's stage is actually really easy to get, or one of them, the one that's in the Genesis version. You basically just throw him to the left-hand side of the screen, and a dinosaur comes out and eats him. And I messed up that combo. It's really hard to get it in a corner from what it seems like. There we go. Good string. Dolph Lundgren playing Larson. I could see that. Alright, let's see if we can get him over here to the left. Mike, I think you've asked me that before, man. And no, not yet. I will, eventually. There we go. Yeah, that's a game I need to practice and go through once on Twitch, and then we'll do a stream on YouTube. I want to do that this year, sometime this year. So just watch out for it. Yeah, Sega developed a lot of first-party games. I mean, you got to remember that Sega had, you know, Sega of America had their own development division, and then Sega of Japan had their variety of teams as well. So you had a lot of different internal Sega teams working on products. In the Genesis era, the Western studios were just as prominent as the Japanese ones when it came to Sega. Sega Technical Institute and things like that. I messed up my combo again. It's okay. You were looking for it last night, where, yeah, you'd be looking for a while because it wasn't there. But yeah, no, Mike, I'll definitely be doing Quake 4. You can bet on that. There we go. Hey, Pablo, Happy New Year to you too. But don't you mean he's prehistory? Oh man. Yeah, this one you have to wait until the screen goes dark on this section here. Well, that was awkward. So Ramses has another, you know, reflect attack, so it's something you have to watch out for. Oops. Go ahead and get him over here. Throws do a lot of damage, so, you know, if you actually make your opponents dizzy, a lot of times it's good to just do a throw. Especially if you just need to get them over to one side of the screen. There we go. I know, that's how some of the fatalities are in this game. Some of them you're just like, oh, that's funny, that's cute. And then others you're just like, I feel my stomach squirming now. Some, you know, some AI opponents are a lot easier than others. Like, Ramsey's one of the easier ones. He doesn't block as much. He's very susceptible to things like jump kicks and so on and so forth. And when he comes out of that move, you can just throw him. I can't remember where this one was. I thought it was right here in this candelabra. Let's see. Oh, we got it. We got it. Nice. So I shouldn't be laughing, but and we just lost like 10 viewers, by the way. I wonder if they saw the first fatality and were like, "Oh God, I'm out of here. My kid's watching." I shouldn't be laughing, but it's one of those things where, like, I think about it, I'm like, someone actually had to draw that. Like, they had to spend time making that, and it just, wow. Alright, so Xavier is one of the toughest characters for me to fight. So we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna try to play it somewhat safe here. Jumping in is not usually the best idea with him. He's got various uppercut types of attacks. But he's also got reflect attacks. Yeah, that uppercut does a ton of hits, and it does a lot of damage. That's not good. And we're dead. This stream's getting demonetized for sure. Nah, we'll be fine. I did a let's play of this in the past. We'll be okay. If Mortal Kombat can remain monetized, this should be fine. Especially the newer Mortal Kombats. This game still has nothing on the newer Mortal Kombats in terms of, like, you know, gore and stuff like that. The over-the-top nature of fatalities and whatnot. That was, whoops, not really a missed opportunity. I should have thrown him, though. The Mind Stage and Pitfall. I was actually playing that a little bit today on Twitch. And last weekend, too.
Simpleton.
Punk. You don't even know what a punk is. It's before your time. Alright. So at least when he, like, gets you into a corner like that, you can always throw them. There we go. Alright, let's see if we can get him here. Alright, you know, I'm not gonna worry about it. There's a really nice one right there. If you get him in front of the tree and finish him off in front of the tree, that's another fatality, where a bolt of lightning strikes the character. And it's pretty visual. That's one of my favorites in the game. Hey, John Evan, welcome back. Yeah, remember, we're playing the Sega CD version of the game, so all the music is new. So if there was music you really liked in the Genesis version, it is not here. But we will mess around with the Genesis version at the end of the stream, just so you guys can see the differences. Trident is another one of those characters that's actually pretty easy to defeat, because he doesn't block that much. Or he does attacks where if you jump kick and whatnot, it's very easy to override his moves and go straight into a combo. There we go. Yeah, which Sega CD stream was that? John. I've actually played this game quite a lot over the years, but I'm trying to figure out which one it was. But yeah, I did a Let's Play on this a couple years ago. I remember an early Sega CD stream on YouTube itself, probably about, I think, close to 2 years ago now. And I'm pretty sure I played this on that stream. Then I've also played it on Twitch a bunch of times since then. Now, it's actually been about 2 years since I last played this game, up until this last week. And the reason, like, I got into this again is Starland, down the street from me, ended up having a physical box copy of this game. And I ended up going and picking it up. I ended up selling my previous copy, which I regret. This is one of my favorite games in Sega CD. But I had a bit of a downsizing a couple years ago, and this was one of the casualties. So I've got another legit copy again. So Jenna has this move where she just goes really, really fast. And one way around that is to basically taunt her, and then she won't be able to do it. And she has a tendency of really abusing it in the Genesis version of the game. Like, she really abuses it. And the problem with it in the Genesis version is that the game, when she goes into that mode, the game gets choppy. Like, she skips around the screen because the frame rate, like, can't keep up. And that was one of the issues with the Genesis Eternal Champion. You don't have that problem in the Sega CD one. Like, it's always super smooth, 60 FPS the whole time. What's my favorite fighting game or series? I would probably say I'd have to say Street Fighter. Street Fighter 2 in particular is probably my favorite fighting game series. It's the one I go back to. Like, I don't really have to practice it. I can play it pretty casually, and it's just fun. And if I can play it against real people, you know, even better. I love Street Fighter 2, that series. I love Street Fighter Alpha. I love that series. I enjoy Third Strike quite a bit. Played that a lot. Oh, we might get it. Yep, we got it. But I have some other favorites as well. Some, you know, other favorite franchises. I'll name some one-offs after this. But yeah, Killer Instinct 1 and 2. I love those games. Those are some of my favorites. You know, one-offs from the 90s, like Primal Rage is a personal favorite of mine. I love the early Mortal Kombats 1 through 3 and Ultimate and Trilogy. The early Guilty Gear games, Guilty Gear X, Guilty Gear XX. Eternal Champion CD, I've got to include that. Yeah, these days I don't really play many fighting games. I'll play some old school ones, you know, usually in single player because I don't have a lot of people that come over that play these types of games. But games like these are ones I like to go back to and actually play in single player. Oh, I missed it. There we go. Mortal Kombat 3 was a great fighting game, but the fatalities were dreadful. Yeah, I'd say the fatalities weren't as good as the previous ones. There we go. Always a nice little string right there. You get some good damage. It feels satisfying. Yeah, so one of the things you'll see me do in this game is just constantly chipping the AI. So basically, I'm constantly doing pokes with my normal attacks to see if I can get a hit and then link it into a quick, you know, 1 or 2 hit combo. But I'm also mixing that up with special moves, because special moves will actually cause chip damage. So you'll actually take off a teensy tiny sliver of health for most projectiles you'll fire off at the opponent. So I basically chip away the opponent slowly, and it's a mixture of, my strategy is a mixture of that with, you know, normal moves. If the normal moves don't connect, my energy bar is charged. I'll toss out some projectiles to at least make a little bit of, you know, progress on their health bar. So a good rule of thumb in fighting games is to mix up your attacks in general. So for those of you guys that maybe aren't that experienced in fighting games, you know, you don't want to just sit here and just do like the same ducking attack over and over. If you're playing against a real human, that just won't work. So it's good to go high, low, medium, high, low, high, high, medium, low, low, low. You know, mix things up, basically. And it seems to work against the AI in this game, too. You know, whether they want to block high or low or medium just seems to be a crapshoot. But they do block a lot in this game. There we go, very nice. One thing I've always liked about this stage, in the background it actually counts how many hits you've done on your opponent. Yeah, Mortal Kombat 2's fatalities were definitely way better than the first one. They were a lot more convincing, definitely more gruesome. Mortal Kombat 3 was just really unrealistically over the top. Like, you do a lot of fatalities where your opponents explode and their bones would go all over the place. But you'd have like 8 legs and like 4 arms and, you know, stuff like that. It was really goofy. I mean, I honestly didn't mind it back in the day when I was a kid, but, you know, when I look at it now, yeah, I can see that. It's super over the top. Maybe that's what they were going for. Oh, I missed it. I don't even know if I can get that. I might not have enough time. Raven is another one of those characters that's usually pretty easy for me. She has a tendency of not blocking as much as other characters. So as you play in single player, you'll learn what characters are a little bit easier to fight against than others. Oh, we got it! Haha, we got it. I haven't seen this one in a while. Josh, we're sitting here by Classic Gaming Quarterly. Nice. Thank you, sir. Thanks for checking out the stream. I appreciate it. And if Chris Classic Gaming Quarterly is out there, I doubt it. Thanks for the shout out. Thanks for spreading the word. I appreciate it, man. Yeah, there are a lot of those. The fatalities in this can be decently length. So this is our final boss, or our first final boss. There are 2 final bosses. This is the Eternal Champion, and he's got his first form here, and then he's got like 8 others. And whether we actually get this or not is a complete crapshoot, so I'm going to be trying to play it relatively safe here. Sometimes you can cheese them, so we're going to go ahead and see if we can cheese him. We are in the medium difficulty, so cheesing should be a more viable strategy. And after every form, you do get some health back. Ryan was sent here by CGQ as well. Very nice. Well, thanks for checking out the stream. Doom sent me to your videos. What is cheesing? It is doing the same move over and over and over again in a very cheap manner. And having it actually work and succeed. Ooh, I didn't know I can get 2 sweeps off in a row if I'm close enough. That's cool. It makes sense. I mean, since you can get 2 hits off in air, or you can get 1 hit off, and if they get launched in the air, you can hit them again. See, just like that. I do kind of wish you could do more in terms of air juggles. That would have been nice. I always love air juggles. Air juggles are some of the most satisfying things you can do in fighting games. You remember getting this game for Christmas when it came out. Hey, MDP, always wanted to play this. It's fun. See, the other thing that allows you to cheese the opponent in this is that there is no timer. You see, you can look at his health bar going down super slow. Yeah, Sega CD was $300 when it came out, and it sat at that for a couple of years. But prices eventually dropped, they were eventually liquidated, and that's when I started getting into the Sega CD. I much prefer Sega CD, yeah. I enjoy the 3DO, but the Sega CD is a lot more enjoyable. It has a lot of, like, actually really good games on it. A lot of the 3DO's library is very clunky, doesn't hold up that well, poor frame rates. I enjoy the 3DO. I did a stream of it, you know, probably about 6 months ago. We had a good time with it. But, it's kind of an odd platform with a lot of games that don't have good like pick up and play appeal. It's kind of I don't know how to explain it. Yes, Chinty, it does, And you really, really want to use the 6 button on this. High Score Girl. I heard about that. I haven't watched it. But yeah, I did hear about that, actually. I heard about it last week. Someone mentioned it. I think I saw about it. I read about it on a forum. Cool. Got it. You're gonna go find that 3DO stream. You remember playing that back in the 90s. Nice. Yeah, it's a long stream, too. We played a lot of different games on it, so... Is Eternal supposed to represent the elements? Yeah, I believe he is. The second Eternal Champion in particular, the Dark Eternal Champion, seems to represent the elements more. Yeah, see, if they throw you into a corner, a lot of times what they do is they just jump in at you. And you can get a guaranteed throw if they do that. So there are little tricks you can pick up on when you play against the AI in this game. There we go. Yeah, they were supposed to release a third one on Sega Saturn, and it never happened. I mean, they even show it, you know, they advertised it on the back of the system box of the Sega Saturn. Highly, highly disappointing. With the quality of this game, I would have really loved to have seen that. Oh yeah, Snatcher's a great game. Yeah. Yeah, so there were some spin-off games as well. There was Chicago Syndicate, which was a Game Gear, I think it was a platformer of some kind, featuring Larson, which is the character I'm playing as. And then there was Experts on the Sega Genesis, a very, very late release game. It was like 1996, using pre-rendered visuals and whatnot. It's not particularly good. I can't comment on Chicago Syndicate, but I have played Experts, and it's not great. Eternal Champions on Genesis, it's not nearly as violent, no, and it's not nearly as good either. So the Genesis version runs at a worse frame rate, which makes it a little weird to go back to. But also, there's no combo system in that game. Everything is just, you hit the opponent once, they get pushed back. Strong hits always knock the opponent down. You can't hit opponents in the air a second time. So I can do that where in this game I can knock them into the air then hit them again. I can't do that in the Genesis one. You just go right through them. So gameplay wise, the Genesis one doesn't feel nearly as good. Visually though, it's very similar, very comparable. Almost identical in certain places, but there's basically like no blood in the Genesis version. So, you know, all the blood you see in the fatalities in this, gone in the Genesis one. The gory fatalities in this, like the one on Dawson's stage where he gets impaled, that stuff like that is just not even in the Genesis game. So, the fatalities in the Genesis one are pretty tame. So basically what they did is they took the basis, you know, that was the Genesis game, and then just improved it in just about every way for the Sega CD. And then they added in a whole bunch of new characters and whatnot. So this is our Dark Eternal Champion. Just gonna cheese him. Yes it is, Liberal Arts Guy. Hey, Bracy! Bracy and I were talking about this on my Facebook page earlier today. He's a big fan of this game, too. Playing the Tales of Vesperia remaster tonight. Not I. For obvious reasons. When did that come out? Did that just come out? Return Fire is not on Sega CD. That's PlayStation, 3DO, Saturn. Or actually, technically, I think the Saturn version was a leaked prototype. Wait, I have to research that. Was it the one I'm thinking of? I'm gonna need to look that up in a minute. But yeah, PlayStation and 3DO. I thought there was a version on Saturn that was leaked. Maybe I'm thinking of a different game that was also in 3DO. But yeah, PlayStation and 3DO for that one, not Sega CD. Sega CD is a prior generation you want to keep in mind. 3DO was a 32-bit platform, came out in 1993, specialized in polygons, texture mapping, stuff like that. So, completely new generation of hardware. It was the first of the PlayStation, Saturn, you know, the mid-90s era of game consoles. Alright, are you done yet? Are you done? Okay. Don't make me punk your ass. Yeah, good luck trying to do that rock attack again. Punk. 3DO was, yeah, it was a lot of money. Yeah, it was about 600 when it came out. But when you look at, you know, I don't want to defend the price. I don't think the price was a good idea in terms of, you know, trying to get market exposure or to get market share. I don't think it was a good idea at all. But they were trying to sell it as this really high-end device at the time. It wasn't necessarily geared to just games. It was one of those platforms that was a, you know, jack of all trades, but it was cutting edge. Like, there was nothing like it before. You know, you look at arcade games from that time, then you look at 3DO, and the 3DO was more advanced in a lot of the arcade stuff that was out there, in terms of, like, polygons and texture mapping and stuff like that. So, it's one of those things where, like, if you go back and you look at the era in the year that it launched, it's easy to see why it was so expensive. But also with how 3DO handled licensing and whatnot, 3DO didn't manufacture their own hardware. They licensed the technology out to other manufacturers, and other manufacturers had to pay 3DO to make the 3DO hardware, basically. And that's one reason why the hardware was expensive. Is you know, the companies had the profit on the hardware. And they were already paying 3DO to make said hardware by licensing the tech out. It was a weird sort of business model there, which I think ultimately hurt the 3DO. But when you look at how impressive the 3DO was at the time and what they were going for, what they were aiming for, you know, the pricing also almost makes sense in a way. But thankfully, the pricing didn't last that long. By the time the PlayStation and Saturn came out, the price had dropped to basically the same prices as those systems. And as other companies came in, so Gold Star made the second model. That was a cheaper version. So they were able to sell it for less. And that's one of the more common models, actually. A lot of people ended up getting that, I think probably because it was cheaper. And it's a good model. It doesn't look as good as the other ones, but, you know, plays the same games. And then the FZ10, which is the last model, was the cheapest of the bunch. And by the time that came out, it was really affordable. Yeah, so to put it into perspective, when the 3DO came out, we were playing Star Fox on Super Nintendo. So, huge difference. You know, huge difference in visual quality. Yeah, Bracy. Yeah, we were just talking about that. Eternal Champions 3. I really wanted that to come out, and it never did. Hotel Mario? Yeah, that was CDI, but yeah, no, I would like to. I just don't have a copy of it, and I don't have a CDI anymore. I'd like to get another one. Unfortunately, my gaming console purchases this year are gonna be non-existent. Same with getting mods and upgrades and stuff like that. I'm not gonna be spending much money this year on stuff. Things are gonna be really tight for me. So it's not likely that I will, unless one of my friends like wants to sell me back my CDI. I sold him a couple years ago. I'm probably not going to end up getting another CDI, and so we're not going to be able to do CDI streams. Even though I have a handful of CDI games I want to play on stream, like Seventh Guest and Mystic Midway. I think I had Burn Cycle as well. You're joking, liberal arts guy, right? You have seen the 3DO version of Doom, right? I can't tell if you're being facetious or not. For anyone that's never seen 3DO Doom, I have a full live stream of it from last year. Not last year, the year before. And wow. I think my head was spinning after I was done with that playthrough. It's so bad. It's got a really interesting story behind it. Behind the development, but that's really what it's good for these days. It is not a good game. Let's just go ahead and cheese him. Okay, never mind. He's gonna throw me. Oh, looks like that's it. We just beat the game. I'm gonna go ahead and crank up the volume again. And then I'll let this roll out.
You have won the right to return to your life. Live long.
Yeah, so what's gonna happen here now? Basically, Larson ended up, disarming the bomb that killed him. So the story basically goes, for those of you guys just tuning in, like, you know, the course of history was altered because certain characters, certain humans died before their time, basically. Humans of, you know, important significance that could change the course of history for the better. And it's kind of a weird story. The Eternal Champion takes all these characters, pits them in a tournament, and one character that wins will get to go back and change the course of their life, right? Like, they'll basically get dropped back in right before they actually die, and then not die, and then they'll change the course of history. And so Larson basically won out, but now every other character still dies. So now we get to see them all die. Alright, so there you go. Alright, let me get a second controller wired up here. What I might end up doing is playing as a different character. For those of you guys that missed the first playthrough. What I can do is I can try to experiment with some of the fatalities, if you guys want to see some of the other ones. Unfortunately, there's no way to just trigger all the fatalities. It'd be nice if that was an option. That would have been a really cool hidden feature. Unlockable feature. But Brandon asked, before I muted my audio, was that, asked if I had played the Jaguar version of Doom. The answer is yes. I actually own every console version of Doom, and I've got videos of every console version of Doom on my channel. So if anyone wants to see any particular version of console Doom, I've got it. I've got it here on my channel. There are some I'm going to try to re-record. Like I want to re-record 32X Doom. Trying to think if there are any other versions that need to re-record. Come to think of it. That might be it. Because we did Saturn Doom last year. We did PlayStation Doom again. Yeah, 32X one might be the only one. I still need to do the 360 versions. Favorite theme song from the first Doom? It'd probably be, it would either be The Hangar, or it would be, Episode 1, Map 5. Forgot what it was called. Now you want to buy a Sega CD just for Eternal Champions. Well, there you go, man. It's a good game. Even if you play it by yourself, it can be a lot of fun when you figure out the combos and whatnot. Didn't 32X Doom have different sound effects? Not really. Oh yeah, not Doom 2 GBA. I still need to do Doom 2 GBA, but I do need to redo Doom 1 on Game Boy Advance as well. Yeah, same here, Bracy. 32X Doom's a lot of fun. Liberal arts guy, you can just replace the fuse, man. It's just a fuse. Assuming that's all you blew, but hopefully you should have just blown the fuse. Yeah, you can open it up and replace the fuse. It's just a fuse. So one thing that's nice about the Sega CD is that, you know, it does have a fuse in it. Good, that's a good design, actually. So you can end up blowing the fuse, and then you won't fry anything else on the board, hopefully. That's the purpose of the fuse. You know, is to basically, you know, have anything destroy the fuse, not the core hardware itself. Yeah, so just open up the Sega CD and replace the fuse. You might have to solder the new fuse in, but it's pretty easy from what I understand. Hey, Biolithic, welcome back. Yeah, and I agree in this. I have a major soft spot for the Sega CD. It's a great system. Alright, so what I'll do here is I'll do Enter Duel. And so we're going to go ahead and hit start on player 2. What I'm going to do is just kind of mess around here with different fatalities. So battle time, I'm not available. We'll just do match 1 of 1. Inner strength off. Inner strength is the yin yang. That's your energy. So if you do off, you should have infinite weapons. So that's actually something to keep in mind. If you're playing in 2 players, you can turn the inner strength off and just make it more like Street Fighter, where you can just cheese projectiles infinitely. And you've got speed settings as well, but I recommend just leaving it on the normal speed settings. So some of these we're not going to get, but some of them we will. So let's go ahead and... Yeah, well, the good thing about Turbo games is that you can just get an EverDrive, and you've got the whole library on one card. Collecting, you know, real games for systems like that can be extremely pricey. Alright, so we have to have him land between this electrical power. I think I usually have him probably about right here. Maybe put his head right there, I think. Yeah, that'll probably do it. It's actually not too strict. This is what we used to do back in the day to figure out the fatalities. There we go, we got it. This one's pretty over the top. Liberal arts guy, yeah, no, for old systems like this, you burn individual discs. There's no, you can't have multiple games on the same disc unless there's a custom program made, and that's highly unlikely for a lot of these games. A lot of these games actually take up a lot of the disc. So, so many of these games have a lot of full motion video, and so most of the CDs actually used up. So. It depends on the system, though, liberal arts guy. Like PlayStation, I don't have a modded PS1 or PS2, so I can't, I can't burn copies of this game. So I have original games for all those systems. For stuff like Sega CD, Neo Geo CD, stuff like that, I have, I do CDRs. Let's go ahead and change the stage. So there's another fatality at midnight stage, but I don't remember exactly how to do it. But we'll do Xavier's stage. Anyone know how to fix a PS3 with the yellow light of death? Happened over 2 years ago. There are probably people that can do it. I don't know, though. Like, let me see. Hold on. I'm gonna check East Starland. They do a lot of repairs. They might actually be able to fix the yellow light of death problem. Let's see. Wow, PS3 prices are going down. It's getting really cheap to get one. Fairly cheap, anyway. Actually, it looks like Starland doesn't do PS3 repairs. They don't have them listed on their website. Hmm. Okay, no, they do. They do laser pickup repairs. No, they only do repairs on the Super Slims. Well, no, they've got, yeah, the yellow light of death is a different reason, though. It has nothing to do with the laser, from what I understand. Okay, well, yeah, I don't know. I would do a Google search, see if anyone, can do those repairs. Let's see. Okay, right character. Alright, so we're gonna do this fatality. This is a new one that's just in this version of the game. So we're gonna get him right here in front of this tree, and then you just bam, just like that. High-level modders remove the case and use PC fans. Oh, the board actually gets warped. Huh. That's interesting. I didn't know that. Let's actually go ahead and go back to that stage, because I'll show you the other fatality that's also in the Genesis one. So for those of you guys that have only played the Genesis one, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But yeah, a good suggestion is just to get another PS3. And just get a newer one. Get it like a Super Slim. What's nice about the Super Slims is that they don't have slot drive CD drives. So the CD drives are more likely to last longer. And they're easier to fix on your own. You know, they usually just involve drop-in CD drive replacements. And you get your games in and out faster, too. There we go. Alright, I guess we'll do Blade. Haha, burn, baby. Yeah, that is true. If your system does die with a Super Slam, your disc won't be trapped on the inside. Alright, so we should be able to just do this. There we go. And you can do it from either side. You don't have to be on the left-hand side. You can be on the right-hand side, too. But yeah, there's another one on this stage, but I don't even know. I don't remember how to do it. We already did Jettas. Oh, there's a really funny one on Jettas, though. Oh, man. I really want to show this one off. Like, it's so over the top. The really, really over the top ones are just hilarious to me. Hey, guns. Not yet, Leo. No, I've got a lot of stuff that I need to try to tackle. Oh, I don't remember where you're supposed to land, man. That's right, Larson can actually jump off the wall in this. I don't know if that's just a Larson thing or if anybody could do it. Oh, man. I don't remember. Let's try to throw him like that. No. So basically what happens is in the background, a cannon comes out. They wheel a cannon out and it fires. And it's a car with clowns in it. And the car lands on top of your character and just splatters them. And then the clowns have a horn. They hit it. It goes burr, 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 and like blood squirts out. It's so goofy, man. Let me see. Hold on a second. Alright, let's try that again. Do you need to have them land sort of like, you know, sort of to the right of the far right entrance? Do I still give Tempest 4000 a whirl every now and then? Occasionally. Yeah, so you need to have them land, like, about right here. So let's see. It's kind of like that would be fine. Yeah, that seems about right. Yeah, there we go. We got it. This is this is funny. These developers were effed up, man. I swear. Let's see. You really want to play PlayStation 2 games in 1080p? I wouldn't buy a backwards compatible one just for that liberal arts guy. Watch the My Life in Gaming video on PS2 backwards compatibility. And, yeah, they got a whole video on that. And I think they basically showed you're probably still best playing on original hardware through an upscaler of some kind. Am I doing versus? Just wondering. Yeah, we're in versus mode. We're just showing off the different fatalities and whatnot. Yeah, I'm not going to show all the fatalities, but, you know, there are some I do want to show off. Rack Slash, Trident, Midnight. Yeah, some of these I don't really care about that much. But we will go to, Larson. Larson's is pretty brutal. I have not played Black. I thought I owned it on Xbox, but apparently not. I just looked at my list and I don't have it. All right, let's see. Where does he need to stand? Okay, so he needs to land, yeah, he needs to land about there. So we'll get him... Yeah, that's probably about right. Oh, Black is one of the Xbox One backwards compatible titles. I forgot about that. Maybe that's how I should play it, because frame rate will be better, it'll look better. Oh, we didn't get it. Actually, I think I have to knock him in the other way. It's one of those fatalities where they have to actually be knocked in a certain direction. I am familiar with AV to HDMI boxes, yeah. I don't really recommend them. You will experience noticeable input lag. It'll scale it to 1080p, but it's not going to be the kind of scale you want. It's still going to look pretty bad on your TV. Drive-by is one of the fatalities, so that's not the one we're trying to do. Drive-by is the one that was in the Genesis version of the game. Yeah, I think that's about it. I think on this sign is about where you want it. Yeah, that seems about right. I mean, this isn't the answer people want to hear, but if you're going to play your retro games quite regularly on an HD display, just spend the money and get yourself an OSSC or something like that. Huh. Maybe a little bit too far. If you're doing recording and streaming, I'd recommend a FrameMeister. If you record and stream all the time, like I do, and you do a wide variety of systems from composite to RGB, that's the way to go. If you're just, you know, a serious retro gamer, you play games very frequently, and you really want to use your stuff on an HD TV, get an OSSC. You know, just splurge on it. Although you will have to start doing RGB. If you don't want to do RGB, you can do the Retro Tink. But that has some downsides as well. Yeah, Bracy knows what's up. I might have to actually throw him. I don't know. Let's see. Nope. Yeah, so FrameMeisters, I don't, you know, like I said, I recommend them for people that are always streaming and recording, or if you've got a lot of money, you know. For people that are not sure if they want to get into RGB and upscaling, it is a lot to, you know, it is a lot to take in. You know, it's like 370 or 380 after shipping, and then you would need the component adapter, so you can do the D terminal to component converter. It'll be $400 when it's all said and done, but the OSSC is like 150. The Retro Tink is a little over 100. So for people that, you know, want to get their old consoles working on modern TVs, particularly with component or RGB, OSSC is the way to go. For people more serious about capturing, FrameMeister is the best. It's the most flexible. Or if you're like me, you have both for ultimate flexibility. Alright, I'm not going to worry about this anymore. We'll go ahead and just switch stages. But yeah, so upscaling is it's the kind of thing though where you want to spend some decent money. Like you want good quality, because these cheap HDMI scaler boxes, you're going to regret it in the future. You're going to be like, man, this is kind of crap. I want better. And then that's money you've just wasted, you know? Yeah, it might serve its purpose for a few months to a year. Or maybe if you're just really casual at it, where you just play retro games every now and then, you don't care that much, that's fine. Get them. But if you're doing it all the time, you're really missing out. You know, if you're going to be glued to your HD TV playing your Sega Genesis, you want a good box. You want your stuff to look amazing. So PS2, Xbox, and RGB. Yeah, well, the only problem with RGB, Bracy, is that you can't do progressive. So you're always stuck at 480i. So that's something to consider. I personally don't really care as much about the progressive stuff from that era. I'm fine doing PS2 and 480i for everything. Same with Xbox. But if you want your progressive image, or higher resolutions, like there are some, you know, Xbox and PS2 games that it'll do 720p. Gran Turismo 4 does 1080i, apparently. You need component cables for that. You can't do that over, you know, SCART. So that's something to keep in mind. My RGB cable for my PS2 was actually acting up, so I ended up buying the HD Retrovision component cables, and they're really nice. And another reason I have those is that I can use them on both my PS2, but also the PS3. So the PS3 has HD copy protection, unfortunately. Alright, so let's go to the hidden character stages. This is the Senator. This is... These can be pretty wild. Yeah, MK Armageddon with 720p. Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with just 480i for that era of consoles. I'm not really too picky about the progressive scan image. And since I go through a FrameMeister, I mean, it does the deinterlacing anyway, and it looks pretty good. There are people out there that are pretty picky, and that's fine. Okay, so I think he needs to land on that manhole. There we go. This is a hilarious one. This is so over the top. Oh, man. The HD Retrovision component cables also work with PS1? Really? Let me look into that real quick. Yeah, are you sure about that, Leo? I've never, Yeah, the PS2 cables won't work on a PS1. The component cables, specifically, I mean. And I don't have component cables for the Genesis. I do RGB for Genesis, so... But yeah, I'm looking at the adapter. The PS1 to... Or Genesis 2 to PS1 adapter. Hey, Lord JP, how's it going, man? $50 billion sold. It almost looks like George Bush Jr. I'm trying to remember exactly where they need to land. Oh, we got it. Okay, cool. This one's funny, too. So yes and no, Bracy. So PS1 RGB cables, they have to have these capacitors on the inside of them. And if you use those on the PS2, you might start getting sync problems if you go into a FrameMeister or OSSC. Because the PS2 uses RGB cables that don't have the capacitors in them, because those capacitors or basically what the capacitors do is actually handled internally in the PS2 side of things. So like you can actually run into conflicts if you're using the wrong type of RGB cable on a PS1 or PS2. So that's something you have to watch out for. That's something I ended up doing, is I was using my PS1 RGB cable on my PS2 and I started getting major sync problems with my FrameMeister. And then I realized, I did some research and I realized that's why. So now I basically just use that PS1 dedicated RGB cable with the caps on the inside on the PS1 And then I use the PS2 component cables separate. So it depends on the cables. It depends on the cables, so. In PS1 and PS2, it gets a little wacky with, you know, how the RGB is handled. Yeah, if you go to the HD, not HD Retrovision, retrogamingcables.co.uk, they have a little blurb on their site that explains the differences. But so I basically need to buy a PS2 only RGB cable now without the capacitors on the inside. But I'm not really stressing it because I have the component cables by HD Retrovision. It's basically the same quality, so I'm probably not gonna buy another RGB cable just for the PS2, but it's something I might do in the future down the road. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, there were a couple of other stages. I'll just show you some of the other alternate stages. And I'll show you, you know, the chicken. Alright, see you, Carlos. Yeah, I need to watch that, the Kim Justice Eternal Champions video. Doesn't seem like the chicken can do air juggles. Yeah, so as a kid, I thought these animal characters were hilarious, but as an adult, I play as them. I'm like, you know, this actually isn't that much fun. Like, it's fun in concept, but in terms of actual gameplay, they actually don't really add a whole lot to the experience. But it is still funny. It is still funny. They went out of their way to do that. Okay, so I'm going to go back out to the main game. We'll go ahead and do one more round on the main game. I'll play as a different character. And then we'll try to switch over to the Genesis version. Trying to figure out how I want to handle this. I'm thinking... The only problem is I'm not very good with these other characters. But we can try the champion mode and see what happens. Riptide was my next most played character back in the day. And most of the other characters I didn't even really mess around with. Larson is my main character. Has always been my main character. But Riptide was my secondary back in the day. So... Yeah, we've also got on the hardest difficulty now, so we'll see what happens. I have to remember her moves. So she's got that sweep attack. Uh, 100% for jokes. I mean, they might be viable, but they're super tiny, so it's probably really difficult to actually get hit. So that's something. But as far as I know, the animals don't have special fatalities or anything either. And speaking of fatalities, there are actually two other types of fatalities I didn't mention. And you have Cinekills, which are basically full motion video fatalities. Then you also have Personal Vendettas, which are sort of Mortal Kombat style actual fatalities. And those are really difficult to do. So you actually have 4 different types of fatalities in this game per stage, basically. If you count the Personal Vendettas and the Cinekills. So yeah, there are a whole bunch of other fatalities that I won't even be able to show off in this video, unfortunately. The Cynic kills in particular are extremely rare. So I think what happens, it's something like... I don't remember what the concept is. I have to think about it. But I think it's something along the lines of, like, your opponent gets warped out to, you know, the Dark Eternal Champion chamber. And I think they end up getting killed by, like, their greatest fear or something like that. So it's kind of interesting, but it's something you do not see often at all. So I bet you there's probably a video or two on YouTube that has all of them. It's actually, this level is actually pretty cool. The backing music features, you know, like traffic noises in the background to sort of simulate that you're on top of a building in a crowded city. It actually works out really well here. So a clever little trick to, you know, give a greater sense of ambience. Ambiance. Just bake it right into the music track. Nice. And Mike just got back from work. Welcome back, Mike. Seems I can't block her attacks when she's in that form. Okay, would you stop jumping around like an idiot? Come on. I have to remember Jetta's combo. She's got a good little, you know, 5 or 6 hit string, I think. Does some good damage. Yeah, her fierce kick doesn't really work like Larson's does. I can't link it out of anything. So I can't do like weak kicks and then link it into a fierce kick. It just doesn't seem to work. I should have actually done a round on practice mode, or not practice mode, but like versus mode, where I can just beat up on a you know, a dummy opponent before jumping into the hardest mode. Yeah, so again, in the hardest mode of the game, when you lose, you get knocked back like 2 or 3 characters. Yeah, that's it. I need that fierce attack. Oh, he threw me. I was gonna throw him. And we're dead. Okay, so that's quarter circle forward A. Man, I keep getting hit by this thing. It's so slow. Wow, lucky. Do I like the original Warcraft games? Yeah, I like them, but I haven't played them a ton. I wasn't really into real-time strategy games. Like, I played them. I played the first and second Warcraft. I played Command and Conquer a little bit. I played a little bit of Dune 2. My biggest one was StarCraft. I actually played StarCraft a lot, but that was it. I never got into the genre past that. Yeah, easier said than done, Mike. I'd love to just snap my fingers and have it happen. But it's a little hard to do that when you're getting your ass handed to you. But yeah, we actually showed off the fan fatality earlier today. Yeah, I have no idea what to do against Blade. We're not going to continue. We're just going to switch over to the Genesis game now because we just got kicked back a couple opponents. So we're basically right back at the beginning of the game again. So there's no point in continuing it at this point. I don't know how to handle Riptide right now, especially with characters like Blade. I can't string any hits in the combos. I know you can do a jump kick and then do a fierce punch, which will do like a 2 or 3 hit combo, and then you can finish it off with something else. But playing on the hardest difficulty mode's not a good place to try to train for combos and whatnot. So let's go ahead and shut it off. And what I'm going to do here is actually switch over to the Genesis side of things, and I'll show you the original Eternal Champions. Just so you guys can sort of see the differences. So the frame rate in this isn't as smooth as it is in the Sega CD one. Obviously, you don't have the CD soundtrack anymore. But also, you don't have combos. A lot of the moves will just do a single hit and knock enemies down. It's got the same premise for the story and whatnot. This is, you know, where the series originated. Alright. Let's check out the options menu. Alright, so automatically recognizes the 6 button. And there we go. So we're going to go ahead and just do the normal one-player game. And we will enter contest, and we will probably get our asses handed to us, because that's what happens in Genesis Eternal Champions. Hey, Jules. Yes, the Genesis version feels quite a bit different too, with how hits connect. And remember that this came out in '93, and so it's very much like one of those games where just, you know, hits will just knock opponents down, or it'll, you know, it'll stagger them, but you won't really be able to follow it up with another hit in combo. So it's a little simplistic in that regard. Visually, it's still alright. It's not as polished as the Sega CD one, that's for sure. And I actually just realized on the Sega CD one, I think they got rid of the foreground fog, which is interesting. It seems like there's actually less fog in the Sega CD one, which might have been deliberate, so you can see what you're doing a little bit better. It's just a thought. Yeah, see, like that punch knocked him across the screen. That wouldn't happen in the Sega CD one. Ooh, we got him. It doesn't seem like Larson has his reflect attack in this one. I think a lot of the characters don't have reflect attacks in this. Actually, it's like I did a move that looks like it was a reflect. It might be done differently. It's weird. Yeah, this game is really, really hard for me to play because I've played so much of the Sega CD one, which is, it feels like it's a lot more consistent. it's a lot easier to control the flow of the combat with the combo system and how hits are linked together. It looks like the Warlock from the movie. What movie, Jules? I think there are a lot of movies with Warlocks in them. I mean, unless you're talking Warlock the movie, but no, I don't really think he looks very similar. And I am just getting beat. Yeah, and that doesn't work. In the Sega CD one, she always teleports behind you, so you can jump backwards. And it doesn't really work in this one. And we're dead. That's it. So now we're gonna get knocked back. So we might as well just stop this game too. We're right back at Xavier. This is really frustrating, actually. I mean, I kind of understand why it's in place. It keeps people from credit feeding their way through the game and just, you know, continuing over and over again and just beating the game easily in one sitting. Like, this will actually require you to work at the game. The problem is, everything like the collision detection, how combos work, or the lack of combos, I should say, just makes the game really aggravating to actually play. It just doesn't feel that great. It doesn't have that consistency that you get with Street Fighter 2 or even Mortal Kombat. Or Killer Instinct, or even Primal Rage. And the Sega CD version fixed that. You know, it makes it a really solid experience. Like, why can't I combo that jump kick into another hit at least? You know, like Street Fighter 2. And how did I get hit by that? You know, it's just a lot of weird... And I ran out of time? Did the timer really tick down that fast? Man, the timer ticks down crazy fast in this game. That one movie, the blonde guy with long hair. Yeah, no, he doesn't really look like look anything like him. The first Warlock movie, he ends up walking around with like some goofy spandex outfit. It's probably not really spandex, but he's not really wearing like a robe or anything, if I remember correctly. In the second movie, he's dressed up in... Well, maybe like that, if that's what you were talking about. But not his normal form. So that's pretty much... I mean, man, I don't even know if I want to continue now. Such a poor showing in this game. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. I don't really have much else to show. I mean, I might even just end the stream right now. I mean, just look at this, man. This is ridiculous. I can't do anything. I mean, Xavier is probably the hardest character for me to fight against in the Sega CD one, but it's still a little more consistent than this game. And, whoa, what was that? Oh, we ran out of time again. Yeah, I know exactly a Shining Philistine. That's exactly how it is. Yeah. I can't believe how fast that time drains, though. It's way slower than the Sega CD one. Like I said, they polished that version up quite a bit. They made it a lot more enjoyable to play. Wow, and we're dead. Oh man. All right. Well, that didn't last as long as I thought it would. I thought that would have lasted considerably longer. But, oh well, you can't win them all, right? Oh, man. Alright, so there you go, guys. That was Eternal Champions Challenge from the Dark Side. I'll probably end up wrapping the stream up here. I mean, I could go back in and try to play it some more, but, you know, I don't think I'm going to do all that well. You know, Larson's my best character, so we've already beaten the game with him once. Played a little bit with Jetta, and I showed off some fatalities and whatnot. Not able to really show off the Cinekills or the personal vendettas. Those are really hard to do. And then we showed off a little bit of the Genesis games. You sort of saw a quick comparison. Unfortunately, I didn't play very well at that, so you didn't get to see a whole lot. But the little bit I did show off, you could probably tell, you know, there's a little bit of, quite a bit of difference between the two. They look similar, but they don't really play very similar. They feel quite different, and you know, they obviously sound different. And you know, no combo system in the Genesis game. It's not that fun to go back to the Genesis one when you've got the Sega CD version. So Sega CD version is definitely the ultimate way to play Eternal Champions. I don't recommend the cartridge version. It's tough to go back to. Maybe it's a little more fun if you're playing against a human opponent, which I probably haven't done since the 90s. So I can't really vouch for that. But if you've got a Sega CD, definitely, and you like fighting games, especially if you play in solo. I mean, if you got friends, great. But if you don't have friends that play video games with you, then, you know, playing it solo is still fun. And yeah, definitely one of the better fighting games on the system. It's one of the best, if not the best, console exclusive fighting games from back in the 90s. Like, there weren't that many good console exclusive fighting games, and so this was like the exception to the rule. You know, you look at stuff like on the Jaguar, like Ultra Vortec or Kasumi Ninja or Fight for Life, they're kind of trash. And then a couple on 32X, like, you know, Cosmic Carnage and Brutal, Paws of Fury, stuff like that was just console exclusive fighting games back in the day. Usually weren't that good. Even something like Weapon Lord, you know, it's cool, but it's so choppy. You know, it's lacking so many animation frames that it's kind of hard to get into. But Eternal Champions on Sega CD is very smooth. It's very solid. It feels good. Sounds good. It's pretty feature-rich. Lots of characters, lots of fatalities, lots of moves. Way more. There are actually more moves than the Sega Genesis version. So I do highly recommend it. If you want a good fighting game on the system, this is, you know, this is the way to go, honestly. And there are other good fighting games on the Sega CD as well. I mean, you got Samurai Showdown, you got Mortal Kombat, and a couple of others as well. You can check out. But this is probably the best of them, if you ask me. So it's the most polished, the most feature-rich, and the most unique. So, but yeah, that's gonna do it for me, guys. I can stick around, answer any last-minute questions or anything like that if you guys have them. Mike asked, have you done Sewer Shark? I haven't done a playthrough on YouTube. I don't really intend on doing that because I've never beaten the game, and I don't really foresee myself beating the game. But I have played it. We actually streamed it a little bit on Twitch this morning. So, yeah, no, I actually like Sewer Shark. It was one of my first Sega CD games, but it's a tough game. So, like a lot of full motion video games, it's really hard to be good at it, you know. So yeah, I would put that awesome in quotes personally. I'm not a big fan of Corpse Killer, but it is a game. Corpse Killer is indeed a game. Eye of the Beholder music, yeah, it's got good music. Unfitting, I don't know. I guess it depends. Depends on how, you know, kind of how hardcore you are with that sort of genre of dungeon crawling. Hey, you see you, Raymond? Yeah, so, you know, this stream was only 2.5 hours long, so the archive should be up, hopefully in the next hour or two. So for those of you guys that just popped in and you want to see the rest of the stream, it should be up very shortly, which is actually kind of nice. A lot of my streams are a little bit longer and they take all night to process, but not tonight. So, but, yeah, good stuff. Sega CD. Always love going back to the Sega CD. My next couple of Let's Plays will be Genesis Let's Plays, and then we'll probably switch back over to some other consoles. I want to do some other variety streams on Thursdays. I want to do a Nuon stream, and I want to do an Engage stream as well. So if you guys haven't seen those before, those should be good streams. Should be able to show off some interesting stuff. So stay tuned for those. 3DO was much more expensive. Jaguar was $250 when it launched. Jaguar was not very expensive. So. Christopher goes, let's talk about how awesome the Sega CD menu music is. Yeah, it's awesome, dude. I love it. And what's kind of cool, actually, is you can mute the Genesis side and you'll just hear the percussion, which is handled by the Sega CD. So I'm going to mute the Genesis side. So now you're going to only hear the percussion. And then I can bring back in the Genesis side. The Genesis is handling like the leads and whatnot. Yeah, it's pretty neat. Yeah, no, the 3DO is one of the most expensive systems ever. So, the 3DO, the Neo Geo AES, even the CDI, I believe, when it first launched, was pretty expensive. But do keep in mind, the 3DO and CDI, they weren't really specifically video game consoles when they came out. Yeah, they could play games when they launched, but it wasn't their only focus. They were meant to be generalized, high-end multimedia boxes. You had edutainment software, you had generalized entertainment, and then you had video games as well. They were also utilized as, you know, the CDI in particular was utilized as like a teaching tool. You have lots of like documentary type stuff on it, lots of, you know, learning oriented programs on it. Yeah, I know, Mike. You mentioned that earlier on in the stream. We talked about this already, so. Yeah, we actually talked about all the pricing and stuff like that earlier in the stream. So, based on one of your earlier comments. So, yes, it was not cheap. But again, part of the reason it was expensive is due to how, you know, the licensing of the 3DO tech went. So, there's a lot to it. But it is what it is. It was expensive, and it sucked. I don't think it was good for it, but it is a cool system. If you can get one, or if you know someone that has one, it's worth playing. 3DO is fun. Does the Sega Genesis make the Sega CD more powerful? Yeah, I mean, to be fair with the Neo Geo, it was arcade hardware. I mean, it's literally the same hardware that you had on the Neo Geo arcade machines. So, I mean, that's something to keep in mind as well with that. I mean, it was basically the arcade at the home. So, you were going to pay a premium. You know, if you had the AES in 1990 when it launched, wouldn't it launch? Was it 1990-ish? Neo Geo AES. Let's see. When did it launch? Yeah, in Japan it was 1990. Yeah, no, it came out in 1990. It's crazy, man. So, I mean, in 1990, if you had a Neo Geo in the home, like, you were hot stuff, man. Like, there was nothing like it. Those games were pretty awesome. But yeah, I mean, you're paying a premium for actual arcade hardware basically in the home. So, but just the Genesis make the Sega CD more powerful, or was it its own system just attached to the I mean, it's an add-on, liberal arts guy, so it cooperates with the Genesis. And how much of each system is utilized is just all up to the developers. So a lot of Sega CD games had a tendency of just kind of being the Genesis versions with CD soundtracks, and I don't know if that meant they were reprogrammed to work with the Sega CD's internal CPU, or if they just used the Genesis code and they just, you know, reworked it for, you know, maybe some different sound effects and take advantage of the CD audio. But the Sega CD had its own extra X68000 processor. So you had an X68000 inside the Genesis, and you had another X68000 CPU in the Sega CD itself. And then the Sega CD had its own graphics processing as well. So this scaling and rotation you see here on the Sega CD intro screen, you know, that's demonstrating the Sega CD's internal, you know, video capabilities. It's extra video capabilities that you can't really do out of the box in the Genesis without, you know, doing everything in software, which is very slow. So that Sega logo just scaled up a little bit, and it moved off screen. Now it's scaling in the background. That's the Sega CD's internal, you know, video hardware scaling. So yes, it had extra features. The Sega CD also had an extra sound processor, which allowed for higher quality samples, more instruments and stuff like that. So again, the percussion here is actually driven by the Sega CD. So, you know, it's cleaner sounding drums than you would get on a Genesis or something like that. But what a lot of developers did is they would use both the Sega CD and Genesis sound hardware in conjunction. So a lot of games would use the Genesis. You know, so some games like Sylphid is a good example. Sylphid is a game that uses full motion video backdrop, so it's always constantly streaming video from the disc. So you couldn't use CD audio. So what they did is they created a soundtrack that used the Sega CD's internal sound hardware to produce it. So, you know, all the drums and stuff like that, and snares and hi-hats. But then it would also use the Genesis sound hardware for the, you know, for like the leads and stuff like that, and extra instruments and sound effects and whatnot. And so with those two sides combined, the Sega CD side and the Genesis side, you know, they were able to craft these really nice, you know, packages, these really nice productions, utilizing both sides of the hardware set. So Mike says, did I ever play Descent? Yes, I did. Yeah. How much did the AES games weigh? That's a good question. I don't know, probably a pound or two. That's my guess. They were two thick PCBs with lots of ROMs on them, in big plastic shells. So, yeah, 1 to 2 pounds, maybe a little bit more. I mean, definitely way weightier than any home console cartridge. But these things were, you know, these things were probably like, when you look at it, they were probably like 10 to 15 times the size of like a Genesis cartridge. You know, Genesis carts are really small. And, you know, one of the Neo Geo MVS boards is probably... Well, see, I don't actually know how big the internal boards are themselves inside the carts. Maybe they aren't that large. I think they probably are, though. Man, they probably are. I don't know. Let's see. Let's do a Google search. Neo Geo MVS cart PCB. Let's see what the cart PCBs look like. Oh yeah, no, the PCBs take up the entire cartridge. Okay, and then there's two of them, generally speaking. And of course it takes me to a video by Luke Morse. Is it just one PCB? I thought it was two. Why are there two slits? Or is it two? Yeah, it is two PCBs. They're stacked on top of each other, basically. Okay. But yeah, Christopher, AES games are very expensive, but you can get MVS converters, so you can use MVS games, the arcade games, on the AES, so it's a lot cheaper. No, Mike, it's two PCBs inside the cartridges. You can look on the bottom of the cartridge and you'll see two rows of pins, two separate boards of pins coming out. And if you open the cart, the boards are sort of stacked side by side on the inside of the cart. Yeah, so I mean, no, these really are about 15 times the size of Genesis carts. Yeah, it's probably like 7-ish times the size of a Genesis cart for one board, and then you double that because there are two. So. But yeah, liberal arts guy, I don't know if that answered your question, man, if you're out there still. Hopefully we'll do some Neo Geo stuff sometime soon. Like I said, I have a Neo Geo CD. We'll have to do a stream sometime soon. It's been almost 2 years since I did my last YouTube Neo Geo stream, so we're long overdue for another one. So I'll have to fire that up on Twitch, do some practice. We'll have to do like a Thursday variety stream of that. Yeah, so stay tuned for that. I'll definitely try to do that sometime this year. Hopefully that Jaguar flash card comes out too, so I can do a Jaguar variety stream. And then, like I said, I definitely want to do a Nuon stream. We're going to do another PC Engine stream sometime soon. And then we'll try to do a Saturn variety stream as well. So stay tuned for those guys in the future. But that's going to do it, guys. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. So let's go ahead and do the old final Patreon shoutouts and whatnot. So as usual, thanks everyone that hung out tonight and watched, but also thanks to everyone that is backing my channel via Patreon. Some of my financial situation is going to be changing in the next month or two, so you know, all you guys supporting the channel directly like that is greatly appreciated. So you know, thank you guys very much for that. So big shout out again to Brian Trung and Dark64 for backing the channel. So much appreciated there, guys. And thanks to everyone that's done super chats and whatnot, as well as direct donations. I actually have a direct donation link now in the description. So if you don't want to do the super chat, you can do something like PayPal if you're in like a different country that doesn't support super chat. So look in the description for that if you want to do that. But yeah, thanks guys for hanging out. This archive should probably be up in a couple of hours. Thanks again for tuning in. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Not the best performance on my second run, as well as the original Eternal Champions, but at least we got a good first run with Eternal Champions CD. So, yeah, you too, Brandon, you too, Mike, and Crestline. Take care, Office, and anyone else that's out there. And hey, see ya, Jules. And I guess until the next one, guys, take it easy.